Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. Today we do have several cards to discuss for a wide variety of reasons. A few of them are notable because they were just unbanned on Master Duel, and as we've seen a couple of times before, cards peeling off of the ban list on Master Duel can be an indication that the cards will eventually be unbanned in the OCG and or TCG as well, since I feel like Master Duel is a format where Konami can be a bit more experimental, but there are some other cards that are currently trending, some of them because of their meta implications within this format or an upcoming format, and some of them that are looking like really solid penny stocks with some solid potential over the next couple of months. Let's get started. Alright, so kicking things off, we're looking at a few different cards that peeled off of the Master Duel ban list, so this isn't completely unusual. I think the last one we saw that tipped everyone off was Blaster, Dragon Ruler of Infernos. That card proved to be safe on Master Duel, and then it came off the list in the TCG and OCG shortly after, and hasn't really done anything in either format. So now we have a few other cards coming off of the list, and the first couple here are Redox and Tidal, the last two Dragon Rulers that are still currently banned. So I think that understandably Konami has been pretty cautious about unleashing the Dragon Rulers back into the game. Back in the days of Dragon Ruler format, this deck literally terrorized everyone and was quite clearly the best deck in the game. However, the game is really different now, and these cards that used to be just really strong aren't the same anymore. We've had Blaster and Tempest in the game for a while now, and not only have they not taken anything over, even the decks that could use them don't actually choose to run them. As much as players are afraid of Tidal being used in Mermails or Redox being used in Earth Machines, the fact of the matter is that Dragon Rulers just aren't really that broken anymore in the context of the game today. That said, people are still freaking out about these cards being potentially unbanned in the near future, and we are seeing some small price bumps as a result. Tidal is the one that people seem to be a bit more afraid of, probably because historically water decks are a bit scarier than earth decks. Right now we are seeing secret rare titles come in at around $7 each, while the secret rare Redox is about $5. Honestly, not too bad at all. I feel like the secret rare Dragon Rulers were already worth a little bit because of some players wanting to look at Dragon Rulers as a couple of different Time Wizard formats. The other printing for these cards is in the rare printing, the original from Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy, where Redox is about $1 and Tidal is around $3. The interesting thing to keep in mind about the rares for the Dragon Rulers is that when Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy first came out and you could just buy booster boxes of it, the Dragon Rulers were actually all short printed, but when you could get unlimited Tachyon Galaxy packs in the tins, the rulers were no longer short printed. So the first ads are considerably harder to get, and also since the rares are the original printings of the card, you may get some old school players that are only wanting to look at the rares. So yeah, a lot of stuff to talk about with the Dragon Rulers given how iconic they were, but really I feel like they shouldn't be doing too much to the game itself. I could definitely see Konami reprinting the Dragon Rulers in a reprint set shortly after they are unbanned, or what would be really cool would be all of the rulers getting a quarter century printing in an upcoming reprint set early in 2024. So keep your copies if you want to have them for like an old format deck and you've had them for a while, but other than that you'll probably want to dig these up and sell them as soon as they are officially unbanned here in the TCG. Moving on, the other card that was unbanned on Master Duel is actually Zodiac Barrage, which felt kind of surprising. Zodiac are one of the strongest archetypes that Konami has ever released, so it does seem surprising for them to go ahead and unban Barrage. Now originally we had Trident and Broadbull both banned, and then Barrage and Ratpier limited. We did see a brief period where Konami experimented with unbanning Trident, but the Zodiac cards combined with Zeus and then the Tri-Brigade cards was just a little bit too strong, so we saw Trident rebanned and then Barrage finally get banned as well. Looking at the game today, I feel like Barrage couldn't come off the list. Sure, you can pop things and get out a Zodiac monster to make a Zeus with a bunch of materials, but that's committing a lot of extra deck spaces. As far as popping things go, I could see how someone might try to play this as a small package in Unchained or Fire Kings, but I don't really see this as being like a meta-changing adjustment or a game-breaking boost for either of those two decks. So yeah, interesting that the card could come back, but like a lot of other cards that we've seen unbanned over the last couple of years, it probably just wouldn't be strong enough to actually have an impact on the format. However, because of the power that Zodiac has had before, I do think it's still worth keeping an eye on the prices of Zodiac Barrage, especially just in case we get some sort of new Zodiac support. The card is only available in Secret Rare, but it is quite cheap, with the originals being $2 to $3 and the reprints from the tins being around $1 each. I think that the card is worth picking up only if you can only pay $1 per copy, because the card also does have some like Time Wizard format implications as well, but you definitely don't want to be overpaying if someone is trying to take advantage of the Master Duel hype. Alright, moving on to a couple of other meta cards now. I guess first we'll talk about Snake Eyes Flamberge Dragon. I think that this is actually a card that we talked about a week or two ago. We noted that the card used to only be $1 or $2, it had moved up to $3 to $4, but we discussed how it was still a pretty good pickup because of its meta implications going into early 2024. Well, it seems like a lot of players had the exact same idea, because we've seen a huge spike in the price of Flamberge Dragon to where the secrets are now $12 to $13 per copy. Now, over in the OCG, the notable decks taking advantage of this card are Fire Kings and Rescue Ace, which happen to be two decks that have the biggest representation in top cuts over in the OCG as well, and both of which appreciate all of the interactions that the Snake Eye cards have with level 1 fire monsters. Now, honestly, I feel like there isn't too much to be said here that hasn't been said last time. The only difference is that now, this card is right in the spotlight and has gone up in price already, whereas before, we were talking about the card a little bit early. Obviously, at $4, this was a great pickup. At $12, maybe not so much. However, the card obviously went up for a reason, so we're expecting to see this card see a spike in usage next year. So while you're not exactly getting the card at a discount, maybe you can think about it as you're just paying a more realistic price for the card. Even knowing that, I feel like $8 to $10 is a good range to pick this card up at, so if you can snag them for around there, assuming that the next ban list doesn't just like obliterate these fire decks for no reason, this card will still be a solid choice to hold on to. Another card with some meta implication here, the next thing we're looking at is Big Welcome Labyrinth. I think that recently we haven't really talked about Labyrinth all that much. They've sort of fallen off with all of the other decks that we have in the game, such as Rescue Ace and Unchained. It did look like they were the best deck in the format for a really brief time there. Everyone was hyping them up and saying how ridiculous it could be that they could eradicate people so consistently, and how they were supposed to get a really big boost with the release of Arius and Age of Overlord. But obviously it has not been all good for Labyrinth, as we've actually seen Labyrinth fall off quite hard. It does fairly well at regionals and such, but I feel like there's a clear gap between what people are recognizing as the top decks and then Labyrinth. Next format, however, we are actually expecting to see Labyrinth get a pretty big boost, as we have a new trap card called Transaction Rollback coming in Maze of Millennia. We can go a bit more in depth about that card like another day, but effectively you can banish Transaction Rollback from your graveyard and copy the effect of another normal trap card that's in your graveyard at the time. Now, the really cool interaction with Labyrinth is that you can pitch Transaction Rollback with Stove or Chandelier, and if you have a Coup Clock to turn on the Welcome Labyrinth or Big Welcome Labyrinth that you just set, you can have Rollback copy that card effect, and you basically get to resolve your trap card twice on your first turn. I'm sure that we'll see more from the deck after January, but as of right now, we do have to keep an eye on the price of Big Welcome Labyrinth, specifically the Ultra Rare from Photon Hypernova. Now that we have the Ultimate Rares available, we would usually expect the Ultras to drop in price as people sell their copies back into the market when they're upgrading. However, in this case, where it's the cheapest printing available and the entire rest of the archetype was just reprinted in the 2023 tins, it actually does make a lot of sense that the card is moving back up. Right now, you're going to have to pay around $25 to $30 per copy of this card, which is fairly steep considering that this card was around $18 to $20 not that long ago. Hopefully we will see this card get an early reprint, kind of like what happened with Welcome Labyrinth in last year's Battles of Legend set, helping to make the entire archetype a bit more affordable for those casual players. Alright, one more big price jump here, but this time it's with an Edison format card called Botanical Lion. Now this is probably a lesser known card because I don't think it's seen any usage throughout like its entire lifetime basically, but this card is currently trending because of the Edison Time Wizard format. Botanical Lion is a pretty simple level 4 monster. It has 1600 attack points, gains 300 for each plant monster you control, including itself, so it's 1900 and can go higher with more plants on the field, and also control of it cannot switch, which may not seem like a big thing, but in a format where you have cards like Mind Control running around, this card can be a pretty big deal. Of course, this card is only used in plant decks, and I believe it's the same Edison deck that uses Phoenician Cluster Amaryllis that uses this card as well. Now with Botanical Lion, this card does have a couple of printings from some Battles of Legend sets. However, it is the older printings that have gone up in price, with the dual terminal versions currently at $20 each, and then the super rares from Crossroads of Chaos, which are the original printing, at around $5 per copy. There's a couple of things to keep in mind here. The first is that when it comes to Time Wizard format cards, I know a lot of players prefer to play with the version of the card that was available at the time. The cards do feel and look a lot different, so even though you can play with the newer versions, it's just not as nostalgic for a lot of players. The other thing to keep in mind is that players like to play with cards that just aren't viable anymore in today's game or even other formats, and the more unique the card is to that specific format, the better. Like really, I don't think there's any other format where you realistically go out and build your plant deck and you think, yeah, I should run a copy of Botanical Lion. So this one format where you can actually use the card and not seem like a maniac is actually pretty cool. But yeah, really, it's not like Botanical Lion is this crazy new meta tech that's going to suddenly take over the game. It's just a random tech for some random deck from an old format, and it's spiking given the popularity of Edison format right now. Personally, I would just offload them while they're worth a few dollars each. Even if I wanted to play it, I would still know and keep in mind that you can grab the Battle Pack Common or Starfoil printings for like 50 cents each. Okay, so there's a couple of cards here that I have my eye on right now. They're not exactly the most expensive yet, however, I do still think they are worth noting. If a card went from $5 to $10, that's doubling in price, but if a card goes from 10 cents to $1, that's the card now going up 10x in price. Sure, it's a lot of work to sell more copies, but I like taking advantage of cards that used to only be a few cents. You just set them aside from bulk that you take in, and then you move them for some actual value. The first card to note here is World Dragon Zealantis. This card is basically a giant board repositioner. It's a Link 4 that you can summon with any Link 4 monster since you only need one material to make it. It basically banishes everything on the field, and then both players summon back monsters equal to the number that were banished. So this card lets you trigger the on-summon effects of certain things. It can also reset a Baron de Fleur. However, it was primarily used by Marincess, and since Marincess waterlocked you a lot of the time, and the summon back is part of Zealantis' effect, you could banish your opponent's board but not summon the monsters back with Zealantis, so this card effectively just became like this banish your opponent's entire field. Now, however, we're seeing a different use of this card in the OCG early on here. It's actually being used by Fire Kings to help facilitate OTKs. The idea is that you can make this card with Salamangreat Raging Phoenix, and then the summoning of monsters back to your opponent's field will then trigger the effect of the Promethean Princess, which is the new card coming in Phantom Nightmare, who can summon herself out of the graveyard, pop a couple of cards, and then this would allow the effect of Raging Phoenix in the graveyard to trigger and bring itself back onto the field as well, allowing you to push for a bunch of damage. So basically, you're just getting a ton of damage onto the field at once, and so it is seeing play early on in the format here in the OCG. Phantom Nightmare isn't coming out here in the TCG though until February, but of course, it never hurts to be prepared and have an idea of what combos they're coming up with over there so that we're going to find ways to improve them or change them due to different card pools. Now right now, Zealantis is still quite cheap. It only has the original Secret Rare and then Megatin Secret Rare printings. The original one is technically higher. I think it's between $1 and $2, while the Megatin reprint is literally like 25 cents or so. I own both copies of the card, and to me they look almost identical. Like, I really don't see any reason to pay extra for that original copy. I get that the set code is different, and that will matter to some people, but I don't see why you would go out and just spend a ton more money for things just like for the heck of it. I don't think it'll matter if you go out and spend $1 on the originals versus 25 cents, but just keep an eye on the way that original printing is going, because if it does go up to like $3, $5, I definitely do think it's worth it to offload the card for the few dollars and buy the same card back basically for 25 cents. And finally, the last card for today is Noble Knight's Shield Bearer, but no, we are not looking at this card because of Noble Knights. We're actually looking at this card for, believe it or not, Ritual Beast. Now, Shield Bearer is a pretty forgettable card that came out back in Brothers of Legend, and it was definitely one of the worst secret rares to pull. It's kind of a funny looking card, but I think it just has such a strange effect and doesn't really fit in with like the Noble Knight cards. I think a lot of Noble Knight players probably don't even know that it exists. However, this is actually a tech used by some Ritual Beast players. It has an in-hand effect where you can banish it from your hand or your side of the field to search for a level 6 or lower Beast type and Wind attribute monster. Really specific, but this is actually a free search for Spiritual Beast Rampengu, a Wind Beast monster that actually happens to be an amazing combo starter for the Ritual Beast deck. I don't actually know why Shield Bearer has this effect, But hey, I guess the card is actually like randomly a searcher for some specific set of characteristics, and it happens to be a good tech for Ritual Beast. I don't know, this card feels kind of like as if we got like a Rescue Ace monster that just randomly searched for an Earth Dragon or something, some weird application. With Shield Bearer's 1 printing, it has gone from being like a 5-cent card to now being $1 each, and I guess we could gradually see this hit the $2, $3, $4 mark. Ritual Beasts are actually pretty solid over in the OCG, not quite up there with Rescue Ace and Fire Kings, but they're like a solid tier 1.5, tier 2 strategy. Now, while this card is fairly cheap, I don't recommend picking up any more copies. It is such a niche-specific application that I don't know if it's even going to see all that much play. However, if you do have some in your holo bulk, it's definitely worth digging up and setting aside. Depending on how badly you want to move the card, you could consider offloading them now while there is this little early bit of hype, or it might be worth holding on to until we have the new ritual support officially confirmed to the TCG before you go ahead and dump them. Alright guys, that is it for today's episode. Sorry, this episode was definitely a little bit on the longer side, but I do like explaining things to you guys, right? I don't want to just show the card on screen and say, hey, this card is up, and then leave you guys to go figure things out for yourself or why something is happening. I like going over those things and explaining in depth with you guys and discussing what I think you guys should be doing, and that's like the real value of Market Watch, I feel. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure that you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Also make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below, and if you haven't already, do hit that subscribe button as well. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.